Nancy, you will sometimes notice, like, you'll have people that don't know the history of the museum, and they'll talk about how sometimes they'll see a woman in a white dress with a child walking the grounds. Sometimes they'll spot someone in the upper window. Sometimes you'll hear things like a baby. One of the creepiest for me was that, Mom and Molly had told me about this stuff, but nothing had happened to me yet. And usually I would take a shift for my mom on Saturdays and basically just be in the museum all by myself the entire day. And it was close to closing time. Sun was kind of beginning to finally get on down. And I'm closing up the museum, making the last rounds, making sure everything's closed up, turned off. And then I hear it. It sounds like a woman singing a lullaby. Well, I just stop dead in my tracks and I focus, just trying to hear exactly what is going on. And that's when it stops. I look around. There's no one else in there. There's no one else out there. And what has quickly become the motto of our family whenever dealing with things like this, I politely exited the premises. One of the crowning achievements, so to speak, on what we can only assume was Nancy's part, was they were getting ready to leave. Mom tells Molly, turn off the lights, and there's at least 4 or 5 light switches to take out the main room. And Molly does so, and she leaves and she goes back to the front door wanting to just hurry up, let's go. And Mom, she's still piddling around with something. And she's like, well, here, turn back on the lights. I can't see. I want to straighten a few of these pictures or whatever. Molly turns around where she's at the front door. And before she can cross, before anything can happen, all the lights in the main room come on at once. Molly's at the front door. There are no light switches there. She would have to leave the front door, go into the main room, and turn on those switches to do this. Debbie's just in there. As she looks up, she sees where Molly is. And she simply says, thank you. I appreciate it. Straightens the pictures a little bit, make sure everything is done all right, and leaves the premises. The most outright, the most weird, strange, definite, elsewhere, I suppose, on the map story that happened was sometimes you get the feeling that there is a kid there. And we can only assume that it is Nancy's. But a lot of times whenever my mom is doing a camp or a field trip project, she'll buy these little wooden flat horses from Michael's. She'll paint them and hand them out to the kids so the kids can write their name in Cherokee on the horse. So she'll put a base coat of brown on them and line them all up flat, like basically cookies, and get them ready for the next day. So she has all that settled, and she's in her office, which is pretty much adjoined to the room where they keep all this stuff. And she's talking to Molly, and they're getting ready to go. Molly is just kind of looking in the office, and she's just looking into the main room where we keep everything. And she just stops and she says, we need to go now. And Mom looks at her and says, well, what do you see? What's going on? Molly just says, we need to go now. There's something in here. Debbie gets up, goes to the doorway, and actually steps out to go into the room. And you hear the sound of just wood clattering. They walk in there together, Mom leading the way, Molly just gripping on tight, because she wasn't going to let Mom go in by herself, but Molly's gripping on tight from behind. And they go in, and they're all the horses laid out, except for 2. They're not straight, they're not in their place. They're just kind of like they've been dropped on the others. And Debbie turns around and looks at Molly, and she says, what did you see? Molly looks at her and she says, I think I saw someone playing with them.